in the kitchen making blueberry apple crisp. I live in the Annapolis Valley of Nova Scotia, and this area has always been known for apples and apple orchards and apple juice and apple products. Um, it's even got a festival in the spring called the Apple Blossom Festival. That's the second oldest festival in Canada when all the trees are in bloom. So it's beautiful at that time of year to drive by the blossoms, as it is beautiful right now to drive by the orchards and see the apples just clinging to the trees. So many varieties of apples have been formed and created here and then are exported all over the world. Now we have a lot of vineyards as well. So it's definitely high harvest producing area of Canada. So apple blueberry crisp. I'm a dump cook like Lisa when it comes to many things that I make, including apple crisp. So I kind of looked online just to see, well, what proportions in a recipe do people usually use? And there's usually equal parts flour to oatmeal for the crumble, and then maybe a little less butter. And people will throw in cinnamon. I add a little bit of nutmeg. Brown sugar is usually preferred, although I don't have any right now. And I often don't even add any sugar because I just go with the sweet of the fruit that's in the dessert. So my favorite variety of apple is one that isn't found a lot of other places. It originates from here. It's called the Gravenstein. It's one of the first ones harvested in the season, and I get really excited when I get out to a farmer's market and see that these Gravensteins are ready. Now, this is just a baby one, but I can remember as a child we would go and get the wooden boxes of apples directly from an orchard and line the inside of our garage with them. And every day on the way to school, we went out and grabbed an apple to take to school. And when you got home, we went and got another apple. And my dad would take the biggest ones, and he did a really neat trick because he could hold a huge apple in his hands and just kind of twist and pop the apple into two halves because the big ones were way too big for me or my brothers and sisters to eat. So, the Gravensteins, they start off sweet and juicy and crisp. And then what happens is very quickly they become waxy on the outside. You literally could scrape wax off with your fingernail. And then they become soft on the inside. And at that point, lots of people still eat them at that point, but I only enjoy them as a baking apple by that stage. So, I get pretty excited when the first Gravensteins come off the trees because I love to be able to eat at least an apple a day. And making apple pies, apple crisps, those have been so popular in this area that most people grow up knowing how to do that. I didn't slice my other ones this way, but it seems to be this is the way. I'm just doing it right off the core instead of snapping it in half. Okay, so what I've done is I have put my sliced apples in a oven safe container, and I did squeeze a little lemon juice on them for some lemony flavor, but I'm going to fill up the rest with some blueberries. And the blueberries are going to create a lot of juice, so I may do my little trick that you've seen me do before with the tapioca and put a little sprinkle of that over this so that the fruit sort of sets up and doesn't run all over the place. So maybe 2 teaspoons of that. So that's what my crisp is going to look like before I get the crumble on the top. I may take a little piece of my lemon here and squirt some more flavor in to give a little tart to the flavor of the fruit. So in another bowl, I am going to do up my crisp. So I'll start by tipping you down so you can see my convoluted sets of dishes here. And I'm going to start by putting in some flour. I'll move my tapioca out of the way. And then I'm going to put in some oatmeal. And stir that together. And then I might put another little splash of that. I am, just so you know, see this? I am drinking my coffee out of my Dolly Parton mug today from Dean and Martin Pottery in North Carolina. Oh, here I am just throwing in a little cinnamon, maybe a teaspoon or two into that. And I'll put less nutmeg than cinnamon, and just do a little shake onto my clean hand, just enough to have a little hit of it. Same thing with salt, just a little bit. So to recap, we've got the blueberries and the apples, 5 or 6 apples, and about a tablespoon or so of tapioca in the bottom. So that tapioca is found in the Jell-O section of the grocery store. There's instructions right on the back that names different kinds of pies or desserts and how it can congeal up your fruit so it doesn't run all over the place. The crumble that's been started in this dish is equal parts white flour, all-purpose flour, and then oatmeal. The oats that are the same oats that I use for my breakfast, just a bag of rolled oats. And it has a little dash of salt in it. It has probably by now 2 to 3 teaspoons of cinnamon. That's my cinnamon container, and less of nutmeg. And then, yeah, the only thing left to do is add the butter into the crumble. So your crumble would be enough to cover that bottom pan of fruit, and if you're making a bigger portion of it, then you've got to, double up the recipe. Okay, I'm going to add some butter in. I ended up putting about 3 tablespoons of sugar in here. Brown sugar would be the preferred one, but I just had white. And the pastry cutter, I don't think, does a very good job with this butter that was already room temperature. But I usually make a crumble, to tell you the truth, with my hands. So now that it's both mainly all stirred up, I am going to use the heat of my hands to kind of form the crumbly adhered pieces that'll go on the top. It reminds me of the crumble that Lisa makes from her granny and puts on top of her pies. I'm just using the heat of my hand to get into the butter that's in this and make it all come together. The butter, I probably had maybe 1/4 cup or a little bit more that I sliced and put into this. So I'm just going to go over here now and start sprinkling it on the dish. This, a crisp, like a cobbler, tastes great with ice cream on top or whipped cream. For myself, I'm always watching what I'm doing, so plain yogurt I've gotten used to tastes super good on a hot, warm dish like this coming out of the oven. And there you have it. There is a blueberry apple crisp. I find that a crisp is a really quick, easy dessert to prepare for any guests, especially if you've got the fruit on hand. So if you could smell the aroma in this kitchen right now. I just took the crisp out of the oven and it's still piping hot, but because it has wafted all through the house, I cannot wait to at least put some in this bowl. So, looks like the fruit has kind of held its form. There's some juice down the bottom. And surprisingly, the blueberries did not color up the apples. Well, there weren't that many of them. Oh, yeah. When I told you that I use plain yogurt, this is something that I get that I've mentioned on the page before. And when I look at the ingredients on here somewhere on the top, it's got the non-homogenized whole milk and the live cultures with the acidophilus and bifidus, and that's it. There's no skim milk powder added back in. And I learned at a food conference that I went to one time that can be some of the healthiest yogurt because the acidophilus hasn't been depleted by the skim milk powder being added back in. Who knows? Okay, so that's what I'm putting on mine, is this thick white, this thick yogurt that's just yogurt, nothing else added in, and that's gonna act like my ice cream. All right, everybody, I can't taste it right now. I'll burn my mouth. I gotta wait for the yogurt to cool it down. Anyway, enjoy. I hope you try it out. Thanks. I'm back, and I'm back with my bowl probably would have been licked clean, but I'm back because it was so good. And I gotta have another bite full. I marvel at how good cooking can be, baking can be, with so little added sugar. I mean, sure, this is carbs. It's got flour, oats, fruit, that's all, and yogurt. Those are all carbs. But the thing about something like this is that the carbs, other than the flour, they're all nutritional. So if you are watching what you eat and having just a small amount, which I'm not right now, by the way, but the fact that it's all nutrition and it's not wasted calories, empty calories, I guess is what you're supposed to say. That's the fun of it. If you learn how to cook without adding a lot of sugar, it can really be worth it. I mean, this is to die for. This is so yummy. I think squeezing the lemon over the blueberry and the apple makes a big difference. The crisp has a little bit of crunch to it, but then it's also soft. And the yogurt doesn't have a yogurt taste. It takes on the taste of the dessert. So it's got the cooling effect and the ice cream kind of effect. So it just adds to it. That's all I gotta say. All right.